Hey there and welcome to MetaNetTV. This is Jon, and I'm continuing my series of profiles of some of the contributors we've got here working on the MetaNetTV project. Today we've got Marquee Mark, all the way from London. Hey Mark, how's it going?
Pretty good, thanks. Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad considering it's steaming hot over here. How is it over there?
It's warming up.
Alrighty, now we're going to talk MetaNet. But before we do that, I want to talk to you a little bit about Bitcoin. And I mean, everyone's telling me how they got into Bitcoin SV, but I'm not hearing much about how people got into Bitcoin in the first place. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you here?
Yeah, so I first heard about Bitcoin quite late on, really.
Mm-hmm. How late is late?
It wasn't until 20... Sorry, could you say that again?
How late is late?
Late is 2013.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm late too.
Before that, I don't know why. When were you?
About 2013 too.
2013 too, yeah. So I heard about it on a tech show. I listened to this show called This Week in Tech.
Really?
By a guy called Leo Laporte. I've heard of it. And there's a guy on there who was mentioning Bitcoin. He was like, wow, the price of Bitcoin's gone up to $200. That's really high. And I thought, that's interesting. There's this new currency that's decentralized on the internet. I need to look into that. And it was fresh after the financial crisis, or the credit crunch, as we called it in the UK.
Yeah.
Which kind of finished around 2011 or so. And I've got a background in IT, but I've worked in banks and hedge funds and payment processes. So I have a keen interest in finance. And the kind of financial crisis of 2008 to 2011 got me thinking about what is money, what does it mean, all that kind of thing. So when I heard about a currency or a cash system that was decentralized, I was really, really interested. So from around, I would say, mid-2013, I started looking into it and looking at the technology, looking at the economics and all of that.
Right. It's very interesting that you heard it on Leo Laporte's show, because I think it was This Week in Tech that got me into it as well.
Ah, interesting.
I had heard about it before, but it was only when they interviewed Gavin Andresen one day it started to actually click.
Yeah. What I loved about Bitcoin, when I first started looking into it, it almost kind of went down this rabbit hole and never came out.
Right.
And I'm still down there.
Well, we all are. We're all deep in that burrow.
Yeah. And all my friends and family, just telling me just to shut up about Bitcoin, but I just can't.
I think we've all been there too.
Yeah. And what I loved about it is the fact that it brings honesty to the financial system. I think a lot of people don't see that. Is that because it's a public ledger, it means that anyone transacting on this system has their transactions publicly auditable on the blockchain. So that means governments, that means banks, that means corporate banks, that means me, you, anyone else, drug smugglers, all of these transactions now fully auditable, which means that if we adopted Bitcoin as a world currency, then it would bring honesty into the world. And that's what really attracted me to it.
It's kind of interesting that people say that it would bring honesty into the financial system, because I think in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies so far, we've seen a lot of dishonesty. I think a lot of ransomware scams. A lot of the old financial scams have come back again. How is Bitcoin, and particularly Bitcoin SV, going to eliminate that?
I think the reason we're seeing these ransomware things is that the people that created these things don't actually understand what they're doing.
Right.
So I think because it's so new that they don't actually realize that they are signing their keys to a transaction on the blockchain, which can be used by law enforcement in the future. These are digital signatures that can be used in a court of law. So, if you're using cash, like US dollars, very very difficult to trace those. But if you are signing a transaction, a financial transaction on the blockchain with your keys, that's I don't think these people have realized that that's probably not a good thing to do. So I think that as the understanding grows, and one of the reasons I wanted to be on this channel on MetaNetTV is to help with the education of people and to help them see that transacting on Bitcoin is a public thing that they're doing.
Do you think it's still going to take a lot of detective work to tie those keys to an actual real world identity, isn't it? Or is that going to get easier?
It does. So, I mean, I think it is private, but it's not anonymous. So,
right.
I mean, Craig Wright talks about this, that if you transact and as the network grows, the privacy aspect of it will increase because your transaction will be one of millions that have happened in the last hour, whatever it is. And they are very, very difficult to type to you. So it's a pseudonymous system. So there's no way to know, if my transaction's on the blockchain, you don't know that it is mine unless I tell you that this transaction with this transaction ID is my transaction.
I must admit, I'm still a little bit confused about the difference between private and anonymous. Like I could tell you the difference, but I would like to know how you can stay completely private without being anonymous. Do you think that's something we'll need to educate people about, or is that very easily explained?
Yeah, I mean, I did struggle with this myself early on because I thought to myself, well, I don't really want to transact on a system that's public. Well, aren't all of my transactions going to be public? Won't everyone know how much money I've got? Won't they be able to check my balance? But actually, when you look into it more, when you realize that your transaction is one of millions happening every day, and there's nothing that ties you to that transaction. If you look on the blockchain at the transaction that you make, there is nothing that personally identifies you. So I work in the banking sector, and there's a big thing around personally identifiable information, PII. And a lot of banks and card processors, even retailers, have these checks, PCI checks, so payment card industry checks, to make sure that that information is kept private. But on Bitcoin, if you look at a Bitcoin transaction, there's nothing in there that identifies me to that transaction. So in that sense, it's private.
I see, right. I mean, when it comes to defining privately identifiable information, I think there's a lot of things that people don't even consider, things that might give away who they are, like the time of day or your spending patterns and habits, that kind of thing as well. So I think that's going to be a big industry in the future.
Oh, you mean to kind of obfuscate transactions, you mean?
Well, both.
So you could have like a delay.
Yeah, I mean, obfuscating transaction, or a bit of both. I think it's going to be a cat and mouse game. There's going to be some people working to obfuscate and some people working to uncover it.
Yeah, and it raises the issue of large numbers of Bitcoin in one address. So if you are a large holder, it's much better from a privacy point of view to receive transactions to new addresses and to never reuse an address.
Yeah.
So if you're, I've built myself a database of Bitcoin, and I've seen that there are some addresses have had hundreds of thousands of transactions on them.
Yeah.
And most of those are usually exchanges, but they're really not private because you can then just watch that address and you can see where it goes to. You can link it together, and you can do blockchain forensics, and you can sometimes find who owns that address.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say to all people out there that if you are using Bitcoin to transact financially, then make sure you use a fresh address each time. And as an end user, most people won't need to worry about this, because if you're using something like PayMail, which is the new payment protocol on Bitcoin SV, that automatically generates a new address for you each time, or Handcash, that also generates a new address each time, so you don't need to worry about it. But those things give you privacy built in from the start.
That's true, right? Okay, I just want to go a little bit more into your career. You say you're a data engineer and you've worked in financial IT.
Yes.
Do you find other people that you work with in that space are also interested in Bitcoin, or do they have kind of an aversion to it?
It's really fascinating because I expected them to all be jumping on it like I did, but they're really not. It's they're just kind of stuck in this old paradigm of thinking that money is government issued fiat, or even the ones that are a bit more open minded would consider gold and silver to be a payment method.
Right.
But a lot of them, I think what's Bitcoin is the Silk Road. So a lot of them are still, even now, saying, "Oh, isn't that the drug money?" So Bitcoin has a lot of reputation to change. It's got a bit of a bad rep even now among normies. For people like you and me that have been passionate about Bitcoin for many years, we know that's not the case. But with people like, if I go and see friends and family and talk about Bitcoin, they're like, "Oh, isn't that drug money? Or hasn't that been banned yet?" And they just have no idea.
I can kind of see where that come from. A lot of people I find just they say, didn't Bitcoin go bankrupt back in 2014? And they just, you can tell they just haven't been paying attention at all. So what can you do?
It's kind of depressing, really. What's interesting about it was I went to in London, we like going out drinking in pubs. And I went out with a few friends from banking, from very large payment processes. And one of the guys there just got a pound coin out of his pocket and he gave it to me and he said, "Well, that was a fast, wasn't it? Why do we need Bitcoin?" And they completely missed the point.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to take a lot of education to get people to understand what the benefits are.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, moving on to the MetaNet, because at MetaNetTV, we're going to have that as our focus. What is it about the MetaNet protocol and the MetaNet technology that inspires you, motivates you, or interests you the most there?
I think, to be honest, it took me a while to get my head around it. And
I'm not sure I've got my head around it yet.
I don't think I completely have.
Yeah.
So I'm very much still learning myself. Having said that, I do believe that we are in for like the fourth industrial revolution, and that is going to be brought about by the MetaNet. And I think that is that we're going to see things, going to be use cases with Bitcoin that people have never even thought of before. They've never been possible before. So if you think about the Internet Archive, or the Wayback Machine, is a way for people to archive their websites, right? How about you create a website and you host the files on the MetaNet. From that moment on, your web has been archived. It's already archived. It's there forever. Can't be deleted. But it also means that for people like these large payment processors, they run huge server farms servicing requests for payments. But they could have all of their web servers or their web interfaces on the MetaNet. They could have all of their payment transactions on Bitcoin. So they could run a business without a data center. Imagine that. It reduces cost for business, which is why I think that the smart people out there, the people that are quietly building in the background, are the ones that are going to profit the most, because they're going to be able to see the benefits of the MetaNet and build businesses which is going to reduce their bottom line. Those companies are going to grow faster than the ones that don't, and they will eventually take the largest market share.
Well, I actually do believe that, and people with vision should be rewarded for that vision too. So, I'm hoping that people who are working away on the back end there will benefit somehow. And you're going to be writing some material for MetaNetTV. You're quite free to make videos too. I hope you do. But what are you looking at first? Like what topics in particular interest you?
So I want to try and educate new people. So to try and help them see the value and see the benefit. I think a lot of people are struggling with that. It's even people that have been interested in Bitcoin for many years still don't see the benefits of the MetaNet and for putting things on chain. So I want to start by, well, first of all, I'm going to start by showing people how to use a cold storage wallet, very simply. Then I want to explore Bitcoin script and show people how the MetaNet is constructed, how it's joined together with, and it's just using Bitcoin script, which is a Forth-based programming language from the 70s, funny enough. So I want to, and what I like about this, about education, is I'm going to be learning at the same time. So, I mean, my knowledge of the MetaNet is not actually that great at the moment, but I will be learning. And as I learn, I will help others to learn with me. That's the goal.
Well,
I'll be starting on script. Sorry.
One of the reasons I like to write and do reporting is because that way I get to learn at the same time as I'm doing work. And that, to be honest, that's how I learned about Bitcoin. Yeah. When I read some of the things I wrote back in 2013, I think, I was obviously still learning back then. So I'm kind of hoping I can do that with the MetaNet as well.
Yeah, I mean, but back in 2013, I was thinking, there's this Litecoin thing. Maybe I should look into that. What's that all about?
Yeah.
And I was just
30 seconds later.
Yeah. But a lot of people are still there. They don't understand that, and it's difficult. It is. It's not easy. So I want to help people understand and profit.
I think we've got quite a task ahead of us here, because I think if after 10 years we still haven't quite managed to convert the entire world to Bitcoin and have them actually get interested in how money works, with the MetaNet we're going to have to teach them about how data is structured, and I think that could be even tougher. We're going to have to show them some entertaining things.
Well, I think that if we can attract some good developers. We already have some great developers on BSV, but I don't think we've even got to the tip of the iceberg. We're just scratching the surface. If we can attract some really good quality talent to build some great products, the rest of the population will just simply use those products and not realize they're using Bitcoin SV. So if you look at something like Twetch, I've kind of got sucked into the Twetch app at the moment, which is a economically incentivized Twitter. Just something like that. If you just fund your money button account and you can just use Twetch, people don't really know that they're using Bitcoin SV. They're just kind of interested in each other.
And they probably also don't realize that everything they write is permanent either.
Yeah, there should be some kind of big warning that pops up saying, your Twetches can never be deleted.
Yeah, maybe that's what people need to know most.
There's a whole paradigm thing that's going on here that people just need to learn. But it's going to be, as you said earlier, it's going to be a bit of a journey. And exciting, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, on that promise of excitement, I think we'll wrap up the interview. So, Mark, I'll see you around on MetaNetTV, and thanks for talking to us today.
Thanks, John. Great talking to you.
Cool. See you later.